TikTok, I need your help on this one if there's ever a time that I've needed your help. Does anybody follow me who either works at or knows somebody high up enough at British Airways that can get this message to them? I was on British Airways yesterday, May 16th, on a flight from London to Nashville, which is why I look so great today. It was a late night because of what I'm about to tell you. I was very fortunate that I was flying in business class, which is the lay down seats. I didn't pay for these seats. My company did. I was in London for a work event. Anyway, the guy that was sitting in front of me was the most drunk, the most belligerent, the most crazy person that I've ever personally witnessed on an airplane. I didn't realize that was happening until a couple hours into the flight. We were definitely over international waters when this happened. At some point towards the middle of the flight, I got up to use the restroom. This passenger was outside this restroom area and he was chatting up with the flight attendants and whatnot. And I was like, oh, are you waiting in line? And he's like, no, go ahead. And he was a British guy and he was like, oh, are you from Nashville? I would love to learn where I should go and spend some time while I'm there. And he was kind of slurring his speech. He was definitely a little bit drunk. And I was like, I mean, I can tell you all the touristy places that anybody would tell you, but yeah, sure. Can I go to the bathroom first, please? That'd be great. Afterwards, I come out and the flight attendants are like, you all can't, hang out here if you want to chat. You need to go to this, they have this club lounge thing on British Airways, which is really just a very narrow hallway that is only accessible to people in business class. There are no seats there. This is not like a swanky bar in the middle of an airplane. It is extremely narrow, very small space. That's important for the story. So we go back there and I was like, oh yeah, you should go to this place and this place, this place, this place, whatever. And I was like, and I would like to go back to my seat now because I was working. And he's standing there and he's vaping. He's literally vaping on an airplane. And the flight attendants come over and they're like, you can't vape on an airplane, sir, because of course you can't. And I laughed and I was like, you're going to get in trouble. But anyways, you should go to those places. I hope you have a great time in Nashville. Bye. And I'm trying to squeeze around him to go back to my seat. He's like, hang on. Let me write those things down. And he gets out his phone and he pulls up a notes app so he could write things down that I said to him. He's fumbling all over the place. There's a million things that I could have done differently, but I was like, look, I'll write it in your notes app for you. Go to these 4 or 5 places. You'll be the typical tourist. Congratulations. So I did that and I handed him back his phone and he was like, oh, well, you should give me your number too. Hello. And that's when I shifted from being the nice people-pleasing person that I am to back off. I don't think my husband would appreciate that, and absolutely not. At this point, I start getting really stern. I'm like, I have definitely been way too nice to this guy who is clearly drunk, and no, absolutely not. I kept saying, I don't think my husband would appreciate that. I don't think my husband would appreciate that. Not interested, not on the market, no. And he was like, no, maybe you can just show me around Nashville. No, I'm not going to do that either. Anyway, at this point, I start getting much more forceful and I'm like, excuse me, I'm going back to my seat. And so he, again, very, very narrow area here. And I'm trying to get around him. And he leans in and goes in for a hug and then starts kissing me on the cheek. I immediately go back to the other area where the flight attendants were at the front of the plane near the restrooms where I had just come from. And I said, keep this guy away from me. He's creeping me out. I'm really uncomfortable here. Let me tell you, the flight attendants on this flight were top notch. And that's where this story comes around to you, TikTok, because you got to help me figure out how to get this message to someone that's high up enough that will properly recognize all the flight attendants on this plane. I'm not sure how much the flight attendants knew about this before this incident happened with me. It seemed like they might have already given him a couple warnings about vaping, and I'm not sure what else might have happened. But from that point forward, I was keenly aware of what was happening with this belligerent passenger and the flight attendants. This passenger was sitting in the seat right in front of me. But like I said, I was working at the time. This guy was sitting in the seat in front of me, and the way that business class is, you're in your own little cubicle. I know, first world problems. Again, I didn't buy this ticket. My company bought me this ticket. I never get this to actually ride in business class. This was something that was a very unique experience for me. And I worked hard for that seat, okay? The way that it is that everyone's sort of isolated in their little cubicles. So you don't really understand or really see what's going on with anyone else because you're kind of sheltered away from all the other passengers, which it was really nice in this particular case. But from this point forward, I'm noticing this guy's like whack-a-mole. He's up and out of his seat. He's all over the cabin. He's getting belligerent with everyone else in business class and yelling at them to close their shades and reaching over their seats and closing their shades for them and saying, I'm trying to sleep. He's yelling at the flight attendants that he's not getting his pajamas and all kinds of other entitled and privileged crap. He then comes over and he's leaning over my cubicle with a glass of wine in my face, here, I bought you a drink, laughing because drinks in business class are free. And I was like, I'm way too nice, you guys. I was like, thanks. And I like set it down. The moment he walked away, I got out of my seat and handed it to a flight attendant. I was like, this guy's vaping on a plane. I have no idea if he put something in that drink or not. Please take this away from me. Please keep this guy away from me. Like, this guy is insane. And they're like, yeah, we have been noticing all of this. Like, you know, and they were doing their best they could to step in and keep him seated. They kept coming over him, asking him to remain in his seat. This continues for a long period of time. They keep coming over, and they were doing such a great job. They were remaining extremely professional, extremely calm. They were actually pretty effective with keeping this guy mostly calm and mostly in his seat. They were also doing a pretty good job of not disturbing the other passengers while also servicing the other passengers. These people need to teach a class on how they handled this situation. It was top notch. The skill level they had, the tone of voice that they were using, the words that they were using, their body language that they had. It was so like well executed. It's hard to explain. It was so artistically done. I have never seen in my life not just one person, but a group of people who were able to maintain this level of professionalism with this amount of BS that they were facing in a really potentially dangerous situation. Remember, flight attendants' number one job is to keep the passengers safe. This could have gotten really bad really fast. So all this is happening. One of the flight attendants comes over to me and they were like, this guy's continuing to vape. He's continuing to be a pain in our neck. You mentioned you saw him vaping. We've seen him vaping a couple of times as well. We're going to give him a written warning. And it's part of our policy at British Airways that if we have to read someone a letter, giving them a warning, there has to be a witness. Would you mind signing this witness statement and sort of writing out your experiences with this passenger? I was like, no problem. I got y'all's back as much as I can have your back. So I did that and I wrote all that out. Now, the only thing that I had communicated to the flight attendants at this point was that this guy was making me really uncomfortable and please keep him away from me. I had not told him the extent of what I had mentioned earlier in this video. They read that, and apparently the part where I wrote he went in for a hug and was like trying to kiss me on the cheek, and I was like, that apparently got the police to our gate when we arrived in Nashville. Since it happened over international waters, apparently it's a federal issue. Needless to say, I was at the airport for a really long time giving statements to police officers. There might be something that happens to the FBI. I have no idea. I'm barely awake and functioning today. But with all that being said, I was talking with some of the flight attendants after this incident happened, and there were a whole bunch of other things that happened that I didn't even see, and I was paying attention. Apparently there was another incident where he was coming out of the bathroom again and had like all of his junk hanging out, and when the flight attendants very professionally was able to shield other passengers from seeing that and was able to insist that he put his pants back on, and the passenger actually listened to her and actually did what she asked him to do. Imagine this kind of person, the passenger that is doing that and then responding to someone in a positive way. This could have gone very badly, but it didn't because of the way things that they phrased them, the way that they were able to handle the situation, their tone and their voice. All I want to do is get a message up to the highest level at British Airways, promote every single one of those people that were on my flight last night. May 16th, London to Nashville, flight 223. And also thank the captain for getting the police there. I was very nervous about going to get my bag after this incident, and I felt very safe and protected afterwards. Please spread this video far and wide. I want these people to be recognized.